the mystery video sweeping social media. Is that really Elvis Presley? The tall man with white hair, a white beard, and dark sunglasses was seen visiting Elvis's Graceland estate on what would have been the king's 82nd birthday.
Did Elvis Presley fake his own death? Mysterious sightings, a falling tree branch without wind, whispers in the halls of Graceland. These are just a few of the eerie events that unfolded during the king's funeral. From supernatural signs to heartbreaking decisions by his father, this is the funeral story that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Only true Elvis fans will subscribe right now. Don't let the king down. The grief that united millions. The morning of August 16, 1977 brought with it a shock that rippled across the globe. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was gone. News of his sudden death at the age of 42 spread like wildfire. Fans, young and old, were struck by the enormity of the loss. Elvis wasn't just a performer, he was a cultural icon who had shaped the music industry, challenged societal norms, and connected deeply with millions. Television stations interrupted their scheduled programming to announce the tragic news, while radio channels played Elvis's songs back-to-back as a tribute. Newspapers carried bold headlines mourning the king's death, and magazines rushed to print special editions. The expression of grief was unlike anything seen before for a public figure. It was just reflecting the immense love and respect people had for Elvis. Graceland, Elvis's Memphis mansion, quickly became the focal point of this global mourning. Thousands of fans made their way to Memphis, many traveling hundreds or even thousands of miles. They camped outside the gates singing Elvis's songs, leaving flowers, and lighting candles. Graceland was no longer just a home, it became a sanctuary for those who felt connected to Elvis and his music. The crowds weren't just made up of fans from his heyday in the 1950s and 60s, teenagers who had discovered his music through their parents, elderly fans who had followed him since the start of his career, and even people who had only known him as a cultural figure came together and shared grief. This wasn't just a personal loss for his family, it felt like the world had lost a legend who represented joy, freedom, and artistic brilliance. The days leading up to Elvis's funeral showed the power of music to unite people. The crowd outside Graceland became a community bound by sorrow but also by a shared love for a man who had profoundly impacted their lives. Vernon Presley's heartfelt decision. The passing of Elvis Presley was not just a loss to his fans, but a shattering blow to his family, especially his father, Vernon Presley. Vernon had already endured heartbreak when his wife, Gladys, passed away in 1958. Losing Elvis, his only child and the heart of the Presley family, plunged him into unimaginable grief. Yet in the midst of this sorrow, Vernon made a decision that would become a defining moment of the funeral. The original plan was for a private family viewing of Elvis's body. As the crowd outside Graceland swelled into the thousands, Vernon realized that Elvis's fans deserved a chance to say their goodbyes. Against the advice of some who believed a public viewing would be overwhelming, Vernon opened the gates of Graceland. Fans queued in the blistering Memphis heat for hours, winding through the estate's grounds to get a brief glimpse of the king one last time. Vernon extended the viewing hours multiple times, ensuring as many people as possible could pay their respects. It was not just a gesture of generosity, but also a reflection of the bond Elvis shared with his fans. This decision came at a great personal cost. Vernon, already suffering with immense sorrow, had to witness the grief of thousands of strangers. Yet he remained steadfast, greeting some fans and silently acknowledging their pain. For many, this act solidified Vernon's image as a father who understood the importance of Elvis's legacy, not just as a son, but as an artist who belonged to the world. By putting the fans first, Vernon showed that the Presley family valued the people who had supported Elvis throughout his life. It was an extraordinary act of grace in the midst of personal tragedy, ensuring that the world could bid farewell to the man who had given them so much. A father's sacrifice. For Vernon Presley, losing his son Elvis was an immeasurable blow. The man who had supported and nurtured Elvis from his humble beginnings in Tupelo to becoming the king of rock and roll was now faced with the heartbreaking task of saying goodbye. Amid his personal grief, Vernon made a decision that revealed his strength and deep respect for the connection between Elvis and his fans. The original plan for Elvis's funeral was to allow a small number of fans to view his body at Graceland for only a couple of hours. However, as the day approached, it became clear that this gesture would be far from enough to accommodate the sheer volume of admirers who had flocked to Memphis. The lines outside Graceland were endless, with fans standing for hours in the sweltering heat just to get a glimpse of the king for the last time. Vernon, despite his overwhelming sorrow, decided to extend the viewing hours. He understood that for millions of fans, Elvis was more than an entertainer. He was a symbol of hope, love, and connection. This decision wasn't made lightly. Vernon was already grappling with his own grief, yet he put aside his pain to ensure others could find closure. The extended hours gave thousands of fans a chance to pay their respects, turning what could have been a brief, impersonal goodbye into a deeply emotional and communal experience. For many, it was their way of expressing gratitude for everything Elvis had given them, through his music, charisma, and spirit. Vernon's sacrifice during such a profoundly personal loss showcased the Presley family's humanity. It was a moment that underlined the unique bond between Elvis and his fans, a connection that transcended the barriers of fame. This act of generosity left an indelible mark on those who were there, reaffirming Elvis's place not just as a performer, but as someone who truly belonged to the people. Colonel Parker's controversial presence. Among the mourners at Elvis Presley's funeral was Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's longtime manager, and one of the most polarizing figures in his life. Parker had been instrumental in shaping Elvis's career, turning him into a global phenomenon. However, his actions during this somber occasion drew widespread criticism and left many questioning his motives. On the morning of the funeral, as Vernon Presley was overwhelmed with grief, Parker approached him with a stack of legal documents. These papers, as later revealed, were intended to secure Parker's control over all Elvis merchandise. The timing of this action was nothing short of shocking. Rather than mourning alongside the family or offering support, Parker appeared to be prioritizing his financial interests. Fans and observers were appalled by Parker's behavior. Many saw it as a blatant act of greed, exploiting Vernon's vulnerable state to protect his own business agenda. This incident added a layer of controversy to an already emotionally charged day. For some, it cast a shadow over Parker's legacy, reinforcing the perception of him as a shrewd businessman who prioritized profits over personal relationships. Yet there are those who argue that Parker's actions were not entirely selfish. By securing the rights to Elvis's merchandise, Parker may have been attempting to protect Elvis's legacy from external exploitation. In his own way, Parker was ensuring that the King's image and brand remained intact. Still, the manner and timing of his actions were undeniably inappropriate and left a bitter taste in the mouths of many. Parker's presence at the funeral remains a contentious point in the history of Elvis Presley. This is just the complexities of fame, where personal loss and professional obligations often collide in unsettling ways. For Vernon Presley, this added betrayal must have made an already devastating day even harder to endure. The alarming events start. As the funeral procession for Elvis Presley started, something strange happened that shocked almost everyone present there. As the people carrying Elvis's body were moving it to the van, a heavy tree branch snapped off and fell to the ground. There was no wind and the sky was clear. People who were there were shocked and confused by this strange, nearly supernatural event, which set the stage for more scary things to happen. People who were there said it was a strange moment. The branch's quick, seemingly random fall felt like a sign or omen. A lot of fans started to talk about their ideas, and some thought it was Elvis's ghost making himself known. The fact that the event happened while his coffin was being moved added to the mystery. Was this just a mistake, or was there more to it? After the event, fans and the media talked a lot about it in the days that followed. Some people thought that the fell branch was a sign of Elvis's lingering energy because of the spiritual link he had with his fans. Others thought it was just a coincidence, but the fact that there was no reasonable reason for it kept the mystery alive. The incident also added to the mystery surrounding Elvis's death. After the funeral, many people who went to Graceland said they felt like the king hadn't really left, like there was a clear presence. This single event on this day added a supernatural air to an already sad day, making the tale of Elvis Presley even stronger. One of the most talked about parts of Elvis's funeral is still the snapping of the branch, which represents the king's lasting link with his fans and the mysteries that still surround his life and death. The unexplained phenomenon at Graceland. Who could forget Graceland, the iconic mansion where the king of rock and roll lived? During Elvis Presley's funeral, it became the site of strange and scary events. Nancy, a maid who had worked at Graceland for years, told of a few scary experiences that made her think that the house still had something strange going on. Nancy said she could hear faint footsteps going through the halls of the house late at night when no one else was there. There were deliberate, slow steps, not heavy or hurried ones. It was like someone was quietly pacing through the house. Even though there were many checks, no one was ever found. The sounds were always the same and came from places that were known to be Elvis's favorites, like the music room or the stairs that lead to the second floor. Once, the door slammed shut for no obvious reason, and it was one of the most disturbing things Nancy talked about. She was cleaning the TV room in the basement one time when all of a sudden, the laundry door slammed shut with such force that it surprised her. She quickly checked and saw that no one was there. The door was also completely locked. The staff started to look forward to these events because they happened so often, but they never got any less scary. The whispers were another strange thing that happened. Nancy talked about soft whispers that seemed to move through empty rooms. The tone was calm and gentle, almost like a chat, but she couldn't make out the words. These whispers would often happen in parts of the house that were very important to Elvis, like the meditation garden or the dining room, where the family often ate together. Even though some people might say that these events were just coincidences or the product of grief-stricken minds, it was harder to explain away because different staff members reported the same things over and over again. Other people who worked at Graceland agreed with Nancy, which added to the evidence that the house held more than just memories. What was going on at Graceland could be the reflection of the deep emotional and spiritual mark that Elvis had left on the place. Nothing could be said about whether these were the ghosts of a full life or something more supernatural. The events added an air of wonder to a house that was already famous. Gladys Presley's spirit that lives on. Not only did the house remind many who worked there of Elvis Presley, but it also seemed to hold the spirit of his mother, Gladys Presley. Gladys died almost 20 years before her son. She was known for being very close to Elvis and rarely being apart from him, but a lot of the staff thought that her spirit was still there, watching over the home and her beloved son's memory. Nancy spoke out a lot about her experiences with what she thought was Gladys's spirit. Some parts of the house, especially near Elvis's bedroom and the kitchen, gave her a clear sense of calm. Gladys was known to hang out there during her lifetime. Nancy said that this presence felt safe, almost like a mother, and not scary at all. For Nancy, one event stuck out very clearly. She felt like she was being watched all of a sudden while she was cleaning Elvis's room. She turned around and said out loud, "Gladys, I know you're here. I'll take care of your boy." Later, she said she didn't know why she said it. It seemed like the right thing to do. Interestingly, the unease went away right away and was replaced by warmth and peace. Other employees also said they had similar situations. They talked about short views of what seemed to be a shadowy figure in places that reminded them of Gladys, like the meditation garden. Some people said they heard a faint humming sound, like someone singing a lullaby, but no one ever found where was that sound coming from. People who believed in Gladys's spirit saw her appearance as proof of how much she loved and cared for her son and their home. Gladys was the most important person in Elvis's life. She loved and supported him through his rough rise to fame. Many of the staff found it comfortable to think that her spirit might still be at Graceland. Skeptics might say that these events were made up because of grief or the imagination, but the story seemed to be telling the truth. Gladys's presence, whether it was psychic or symbolic, became an important part of the story of Graceland. For the people who worked there, she wasn't a ghost. She was a guardian who made sure her son's legacy and the family home were loved and cared for. These incidents show a stronger, more supernatural link to a home that was more than just a house. It was the center of the Presley family. The fans' unwavering devotion. Throughout the supernatural and emotional events surrounding Elvis Presley's funeral, one element stood firm: the firm devotion of his fans. Even in the face of grief and mystery, their love and belief in the King's enduring presence never wavered. This dedication went beyond simple admiration. It was a profound connection that tied millions of people to a man who had become a global icon. For the fans who flocked to Graceland after Elvis's passing, the supernatural occurrences were not frightening. Instead, they were seen as evidence that Elvis's spirit remained in the place he cherished most. The strange phenomena, such as the slamming doors, Faint whispers and the eerie falling of the tree branch were interpreted as signs that the king was still watching over Graceland. To many, these events were comforting rather than unsettling. It offered a sense of closeness to the man who had left such an indelible mark on their lives. Fans who visited Graceland often described feeling an unexplainable presence. Some spoke of sensing a calming energy, while others believed they could feel Elvis's watchful gaze. These experiences deepened the emotional connection they had with the king and solidified their belief that his legacy extended beyond his music. This collective devotion turned Graceland into a historical landmark. Their loyalty was also evident in the sheer number of people who attended the funeral or sent tributes from afar. Flowers, letters, and memorabilia flooded Graceland, symbolizing the immense respect and admiration Elvis had garnered. Fans didn't just see him as a performer, they viewed him as a figure who brought joy, inspiration, and hope into their lives. Even decades later, the devotion of Elvis's fans remains extraordinary. His ability to evoke such deep emotions and inspire lifelong admiration speaks to the unique bond he shared with those who loved his music and his persona. The enduring legacy of Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley's legacy was never confined to his chart-topping hits or his legendary performances. His funeral and the events surrounding it only confirmed what so many already believed. Elvis was more than a musician. He was a symbol of love, inspiration, and mystery. The stories from his final farewell illustrate how deeply he impacted the lives of his fans, his family, and even those who simply knew of him. From Vernon Presley's heartfelt decision to allow fans to grieve alongside the family to the strange and unexplained phenomena at Graceland, each moment added to the larger-than-life image of Elvis. The gestures of love, such as fans lining up in scorching heat to bid him farewell, highlighted the deep connection he shared with his admirers. For many, Elvis wasn't just a celebrity, he was a part of their lives, someone who had given them a soundtrack for their dreams and struggles. The mysterious incidents were seen by many as a sign that his presence lingered, a reminder that even in death, the king's spirit was unyielding. Fans and family alike found comfort in the belief that Elvis's bond with his home and his loved ones transcended the physical world. Elvis's legacy also lies in the way his story continues to inspire generations. Beyond the music, his life's journey, from humble beginnings in Tupelo, Mississippi, to global superstardom, resonates with people from all walks of life. His charisma, generosity, and passion made him more than an entertainer. They made him a cultural icon whose influence spans decades. Today, Graceland is a place where millions come to honor the man who changed the face of music and touched the hearts of so many. The stories from his funeral tell why Elvis Presley remains a figure larger than life, forever etched into the hearts and memories of those who cherish him. The king of rock and roll's funeral was more than just a chow. It was a moment that really carried the essence of his life. Love, dedication, and a touch of the extraordinary. Now it's your turn. What do you think about these stories? Do you believe in the supernatural events at Graceland? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue celebrating the legend of Elvis Presley. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep this conversation alive. Let's honor the king together.